I exposed their lies during the family gathering to show who's really in charge now. My sister's laugh cut through the living room like a knife through cling wrap, too bright and too sharp, and I felt every head turn toward me before I even understood what she'd said. The house was packed, cousins on the couch arms, aunties standing shoulder to shoulder by the snack table, my uncle squeezed into Dad's favorite recliner like it was a throne. The air was heavy with perfume, fried food, and that sugary candle mum lights when she wants to pretend we're a close family. I was still holding the plastic tray of mini quiches I'd brought, heat bleeding through the thin foil in my fingers, when Lana lifted her wine glass and announced, "And to my sister, who's finally doing the right thing and paying back what she owes our parents." She smiled right at me like she'd done me a favor. Someone actually clapped. I saw my dad's mouth curl into that satisfied half-smirk he saved for moments when he gets to control the story. My mum's eyes were shiny already, the pre-cry look like she'd rehearsed her heartbreak. My brother Jay leaned against the doorway with his arms crossed, watching me like he was waiting for the part where I fold. I set the tray down on the nearest surface because my hand was suddenly too clumsy to trust, my fingertips tingling from adrenaline and embarrassment. The room had gone weirdly quiet in that way that isn't peaceful. It's hungry. I could hear the TV in the background, some cooking show with fake cheerful music, and the fizz of someone's drink being poured a little too slowly. My heart was thudding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Lana kept talking, rolling right through it, voice sweet like syrup. She's been doing so well at her job, and she's agreed to help Mom and Dad clear everything up, she said, and her eyes flicked down on my hands like she expected me to pull out an envelope of cash on command. Mom made a soft sound and dabbed at her cheek like she was touched. Dad lifted his glass. "That's my girl," he said loudly, as if he hadn't spent years calling me dramatic for wanting basic respect. Jay chuckled under his breath. I looked at all of them, my family, my audience, my judges, and something in me settled, calm and cold. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. Not to be theatrical, just because I'd learned that if I didn't come with paper, they'd rewrite reality on the spot. It was a Tuesday night 2 months earlier when my phone buzzed with a notification that made my stomach drop so fast I actually felt dizzy. Payment overdue. Minimum payment due immediately. The message had a bank logo I recognized, but not a card I owned. I was standing in the kitchen of my tiny apartment, barefoot on cold tiles, stirring pasta because it was cheap and I'd had a long day. For a second, I just stared at the screen like it was a prank. Then it buzzed again with a second message. Then a third. My throat went dry. I didn't even sit down. I called the number in the app, hands shaking, and after a few minutes of being bounced through automated menus, a woman with a calm voice told me, "Yes, Ms., that account is in your name." I remember gripping the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles ached. "I don't have that account," I said, and my voice sounded too loud in my own kitchen. There was a pause, typing, then it was open 6 months ago. 6 months. My brain tried to do the maths and failed. I felt hot, then cold. "What address is it under?" I asked, already knowing, already praying I was wrong. She read out, "My parents' address." I grew up as the difficult one in my family, which really just meant I noticed things and didn't swallow them politely. Jay was the golden child, sporty, charming, always just going through a phase when he screwed up. Lana was the peacemaker, the one who smiled and smoothed and kept Mom happy. And me? I was the one who got told, "Don't make it weird," when someone hurt my feelings. I was the one who got called sensitive whenever I asked for an apology. I moved out young, worked 2 jobs through uni, built my life slowly, boringly, responsibly. I paid my rent on time. I built my credit. I made myself independent not because I didn't love them, but because loving them always seemed to come with a price tag and a lecture. The thing is, my family's version of reality has always been flexible. If Jay needed help, it was family supports family. If I needed help, it was you chose this. If Mom forgot a promise, it was don't be petty. If I forgot something, it was you're unreliable. They've been rewriting me since I was a teenager. I just didn't realize they'd started rewriting my finances too. When the bank confirmed the account, I didn't drive straight to my parents' house, even though the instinct screamed at me to. I did what scared, responsible people do. I checked my credit report. And when I saw the list, 2 credit cards, a personal loan application that had been declined, a store finance account I'd never opened. I had to sit on the floor because my legs stopped working. I remember the weird details my brain latched onto because it couldn't handle the big picture. The hum of my fridge, the smear of pasta sauce on my finger, the way the ceiling light flickered slightly. My hand was shaking so badly I couldn't type properly. It felt like being robbed, but worse because the thief had keys to my childhood. I called Mom first, not because she deserved first call, because part of me still believed she'd be horrified and protective. She answered like nothing was wrong. "What fun?" Her voice had that sing-song tone she uses when she wants to sound loving. I swallowed hard. "Mom," I said, "why is there a credit card in my name at your address?" The line went silent for a beat. Not confused silent, caught silent. Then she exhaled like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Oh," she said softly. "About that." My stomach turned. "You knew?" I asked. She made a small noise. "Your father thought it was best," she said, immediately shifting responsibility, like she always does. "It was just for a little while, to get through some things. We were going to tell you." "Tell me." Like it was a surprise party, not identity fraud. I drove to their house that night anyway, palms sweating on the steering wheel, jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. Their living room looked the same as it always had. Family photos arranged like proof. The couch cushions plumped, the TV too loud. Dad was in his chair, watching sport. Jay was there too, feet on the coffee table like he lived there again, which he basically did whenever his life imploded. Mom hovered in the kitchen, pretending to tidy. When I walked in, Dad didn't even pause the TV. He glanced at me like I was interrupting. "What's the drama?" he asked. I stood in front of him and said, "There are credit accounts in my name linked to this house." Jay's eyes flicked away fast. Mom's hands stilled on a dish towel. Dad finally muted the TV, slow and annoyed. "And," he said, "and," I repeated, and my voice cracked on the second word because I couldn't believe this was real. Dad leaned back like he'd already decided I was overreacting. "We needed a bit of breathing room," he said. "Jay had a rough patch. It's family. We'll pay it." Jay snorted like he was offended-eyed, made it a big deal. "It's not like we were buying yachts," he muttered. "It was just some expenses." "Some expenses?" I said, and I could hear myself getting louder. "It's my name. It's my credit. Do you understand what you've done?" Mom stepped forward with that pleading expression she uses when she wants me to calm down for everyone else's comfort. "Sweetheart," she said, "we were going to sort it. Your dad just... he thought it would be easier than dealing with banks." "Easier than asking me?" I asked. Dad's face hardened. "Don't start," he snapped. "After everything we've done for you." There it was. The bill. The invisible invoice parents like mine keep in their heads. Raise a child, then collect interest forever. "I didn't agree to this," I said, forcing my voice to steady. "You need to close the accounts. You need to fix it." Jay finally looked at me, eyes narrowed. "You act like we stole your identity," he said, and I swear he almost laughed, like it was dramatic. I stared at him until he shifted uncomfortably. "That's literally what you did," I said. Mom started crying immediately like a reflex. "We're just trying to keep the family afloat," she sobbed. "Your father's hours got cut, the bills, Jay's been stressed. And now you've put it on me," I said. "You've made me responsible without asking." Dad stood up, angry now, voice rising. "You owe this family," he said. "You've always thought you're better than us since you moved out. You think you can just say no and walk away." I remember the way the room felt smaller in that moment, like the walls were leaning in. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from the sick realization. They truly believed they had the right. I left that night with my chest tight and my head buzzing. In my car, I sat with my forehead against the steering wheel and tried not to scream. I wanted to sob. I wanted to call someone. I wanted to reverse time. Mostly I wanted to know how long they'd been doing it, and what else they'd told people about me to justify it. Because they never do things in secret without also laying the groundwork for the story. Over the next week, I found out exactly what story they'd been telling. A cousin messaged me out of the blue. "Hey, are Are you okay? Mom said you've been really struggling, and Mom and Dad have been supporting you. Supporting me? I stared at the message until my eyes burned. Then my aunt rang and, in that fake concerned tone, asked if it was true I'd borrowed money from my parents and refused to pay it back. Another relative made a comment in the family chat about me finally stepping up and paying what I owe like it was a long-running joke. They weren't just using my name. They were protecting themselves by painting me as the problem. It was almost impressive in a horrifying way. If I fought back, I'd be the ungrateful daughter attacking her parents. If I stayed quiet, I'd be the irresponsible one who needed saving. Either way, they were the heroes. So I stopped reacting emotionally in front of them. I started collecting facts. I called the bank and requested copies of the account opening details. I froze my credit. I changed every password I had. I went through transaction histories and felt physically sick seeing purchases I recognized. Hardware stores Dad loved, petrol stations near Jay's girlfriend's place, a big electronic purchase that lined up perfectly with a new TV in their living room. I screenshot everything. I made notes of dates and times. I pulled messages from Mom where she'd said, "Your dad will fix it. Please don't tell anyone. You'll ruin the family." I saved the one from Jay where he wrote, "Stop being dramatic. We'll pay it when we can," as if it was casual. And then, because I know my family, I predicted the next move: public pressure. They never corner you privately when they can corner you with witnesses. My dad loves an audience. Mom loves the moral high ground. Lana loves being the polished messenger who makes cruelty sound like concern. So when Mom rang me and said, "We're having a family gathering on Sunday, just everyone together, it'll be good for us," I could hear it in her voice. The setup. I almost didn't go. I'm not a masochist. But my grandma was coming, and Grandma is the one person who's always treated me like I'm real. She's old now, slower, softer. She still calls me love in that gentle voice, and she still looks directly at me when she asks a question. She deserved the truth, and I refused to let them poison her view of me with lies. So I went, with a folder in my bag and my stomach in knots. Which brings me back to Lana's toast, the quiches burning my fingers, the room of relatives turning into a jury box. Lana was still smiling when I opened the folder. "What's that?" she asked, voice light like I'd pulled out a cute scrapbook. I looked at her and said, "It's the paperwork for the debt you just announced I'm paying." Mom's face tightened. "Emily," she whispered, that warning tone again. "Don't make it weird. Don't do this here. Don't let people see who we are." Dad's smile dropped. "Put that away," he said quietly, but there was steel in it. The kind of command that used to make me obey automatically. I didn't put away. I stepped forward so I could be seen, so they couldn't pretend I was having a private tantrum in the corner. My legs felt numb, but my voice came out clear. Since Lana brought it up publicly, I said, "Let's just be clear about what's actually going on." Lana's expression twitched just once. Behind her, Jay's posture changed. He straightened, alert, like he could sense the trap. I held up the first page. "This," I said, "is a credit report showing multiple accounts open to my name using Mom and Dad's address." I didn't wave it around like a lawyer. I just held it steady. People leaned in instinctively. Someone's fork clinked against the plate. My uncle frowned. My cousin's eyes went wide. Mom's voice broke. "This is private," she hissed. "It stopped being private when you used my identity," I said. Dad stood up fast enough his chair scraped loudly. "Don't you dare," he snapped, face flushing. I took a breath and kept going anyway, because if I stopped now, the fear would swallow me. "For months," I said, "I've been getting overdue notices for accounts I didn't open. When I asked about it, I was told it was family and I should be grateful." Aunt Marlene, Dad's sister, made a small shocked sound. "What do you mean accounts?" she asked, voice sharp. Jay cut in, voice loud, confident. "She knew," he said. "She agreed. She's twisting it now because she's embarrassed." My mouth went dry, but I'd prepared for this. I pulled out my phone, hand steady now, because anger is fuel, and scrolled to a message thread. "No," I said. "This is what I said." I held the phone out so the people closest could see and read. The message was time-stamped. It was plain. "Do not use my name for anything. Close the accounts." I did not agree. Silence hit the room like a slap. Lana's face went pale around the edges, her eyes darting. Mum's lips trembled. Dad's nostrils flared. Jay's jaw tightened like he was chewing down a scream. Someone at the back, one of my cousins, whispered, "Oh my God." Mum tried to step forward, hands out like she could physically stop the truth. "Sweetheart," she pleaded, voice wobbling, "we were going to fix it. You're making it sound." "Like what?" I asked, and my voice rose just a fraction. "Like what it is?" Dad lunged toward me, not to hit me, but to grab the folder. I stepped back instinctively, heart slamming, and my uncle, Dad's brother, actually moved between us without thinking, palm out. "All right," he said low. Everyone calmed down. It was surreal. I'd never seen someone block my dad like that. Dad froze, furious, then pointed at me. "She's trying to destroy this family," he spat. I laughed once, short, humorless. "No," I said. "I'm refusing to be destroyed for it." Lana found her voice again, desperate to regain control. "Why would Mum and Dad do that?" she asked loudly, performing innocence for the room. "Emily, that's a huge accusation." I turned to her. "Because they needed money," I said. "Because Jane needed money. Because the easiest way was to use my name and then tell everyone I was the irresponsible one, so no one would question why my parents suddenly had debt to clear." Jay's face went red. "You little," he started, then stopped when multiple people stared at him. Aunt Marlene turned slowly to my mom. "Is this true?" she asked, voice low and dangerous. "Did you open credit in her name?" Mum's eyes filled, and she did what she always does when cornered. She went small and tragic. "We didn't have a choice," she cried. "We were drowning. Jay needed help. We thought we could handle it before she noticed. Before I noticed. Like I wouldn't mind as long as the consequences didn't show up in my inbox." My grandma, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner with a cardigan over her knees, spoke then. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. "Come here," she said. Everyone turned. The room shifted again, like a compass suddenly found north. I walked to her, because Grandma's voice has always been the only one in my family that feels like safety. She looked up at me with watery eyes and held my hand in both of hers, warm and shaky. "Is this why they've been saying you owe them?" she asked softly. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I nodded. "Yes," I said. "They've been telling people I borrowed money, that I'm paying them back, that I'm finally doing the right thing. It's not true. They've been protecting themselves." Grandma closed her eyes for a second, like she was swallowing pain. Then she opened them and looked straight at my mom. "Why?" she asked, one word, and it sounded like a whole history. Mom made a broken sound. Dad tried to speak over her. "Mom, you don't understand." Grandma lifted a hand, small but firm. "I understand enough," she said. "You used your daughter's name." Dad's face twisted. "She's turning you against us," he snapped, panicking now because Grandma wasn't following the script. Jay tried another angle, softer, aimed at Grandma. "Nana, it wasn't like that," he said. "We were going to fix it. She's always been dramatic." Grandma's eyes flashed, and for a moment she didn't look old at all. "Don't call her dramatic," she said sharply. "She's telling you what happened." The room went so quiet I could hear the ceiling fan ticking. I took a breath and let the rest of it out because the truth, once started, is hard to stop. "I've already filed disputes with the bank," I said, voice shaking now. Not fear, just the weight of it. "I froze my credit. I'm working to clear my name. And I'm not paying the debt you created. Not now. Not ever." Mom sobbed openly. "So you're just going to let us suffer?" she cried. And there was again the attempt to make my boundaries cruelty. I looked at her, and it hurt because she was my mom and a part of me still wanted to rescue her. But another part of me, the part that had been cleaning up their mess for years, was exhausted. "You didn't ask me," I said. "You didn't give me a choice. You made me suffer first." Dad slammed his palm on the sideboard. "After everything," he started. "Stop," I said, and my voice came out sharper than I expected. "Stop using everything like it's a weapon. You don't get to hold my childhood over my head to justify fraud." People flinched at the word. Fraud. It sounds ugly because it is. Lana's face crumpled, And for a second, I thought she might actually acknowledge what she'd done. Instead, she snapped, "You always have to make yourself the victim," and I felt something inside me go very still. I looked at her and said, "You just made a toast about money I don't owe. You turned me into a punchline in front of everyone. Who's the victim here, Lana? Because it's not the people who use my name." That landed. I saw it land in the way her eyes flickered, the way her mouth opened, and no words came. For once, she didn't have a polished line ready. The rest of the night was messy. Relatives started talking all at once. Some were angry on my behalf. Some were shocked and quiet. One didn't try to comfort Mom like Mom was the main person harmed, and I had to bite my tongue so hard I tasted metal. Dad paced like a trapped animal, muttering about betrayal. Jay stood by the doorway, jaw clenched, and I could tell he was calculating what narrative he could salvage from this. But here's the part that mattered to me, the part that made me feel like I was in charge for the first time in my life. I didn't beg anyone to believe me. I didn't cry and apologize for bringing it up. I didn't soften it so they could digest it without discomfort. I stayed standing. I stayed calm. I let the truth exist in the room without immediately trying to patch the hole it tore in the family's image. At one point, Dad stepped close to me, eyes hard, and hissed, "You've just ruined your relationship with this family." My hands were trembling again, but I looked him in the eye and said, "You ruined it when you decided my name belonged to you." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. He was used to the version of me that swallowed things. The version that made everything easier for everyone else. When things finally started to thin out, people making excuses, grabbing coats, avoiding eye contact, my grandma reached for me again. "Can you take me home?" she asked quietly. Mom turned sharply. "Mom, no," she started, panicked because the optics were slipping further. Grandma held up a hand. "I want to go with Emily," she said. "I'm tired." I nodded, throat tight, and helped her stand. As we walked toward the door, Jay called after us, voice suddenly wounded. "So, you're just leaving?" After doing all that, I turned, and I surprised myself by feeling almost nothing. Just a tired kind of clarity. "Yes," I said, "I'm leaving, because I'm not staying in a room where the truth gets punished." Outside, the air was cool and smelled like wet grass. My body felt like it was buzzing, adrenaline draining, nerves jangling. Grandma shuffled beside me, leaning on my arm. Well, I got her into my car and buckled her seatbelt. My hand shook so badly, I had to try twice. She watched me with soft eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. I swallowed hard. "You didn't do this," I whispered. Grandma patted my hand. "No," she said, "but I should have seen sooner." Families, they make excuses for the loud ones. On the drive to her place, my phone lit up nonstop. Mom calling. Lana texting in rapid bursts. Jay sending one long message that started with, "I can't believe you'd do this to us," and ended with, "You've always been selfish." I didn't read them fully. I couldn't. My chest felt raw, like I'd been scraped open. When I got Grandma inside and made her tea, she sat at her kitchen table and looked at me over the rim of the mug. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. I stared at the steam rising, hands wrapped around my own cup just for something to hold. "I'm going to protect myself," I said. "I'm going to fix my credit. I'm going to stop letting them use my guilt like a leash." Grandma nodded slowly. "Good," she said, simple and solid. That night, back in my apartment, the silence hit me like a wave. No family noise. No shouting. No fake laughter. Just my fridge humming and my own breathing. I sat on my couch and stared at the folder on my coffee table and felt the weird mix of grief and relief that comes when you finally stop pretending. The next morning, Mom turned up at my door. I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway in my pajamas, hair messy, arms crossed, and she looked small for the first time in my life. Really small, not performatively. Her eyes were swollen from crying. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. I blinked. Why would I expose the truth? I asked. Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. "You didn't have to do it like that," she pleaded. "Not in front of everyone." I let out a slow breath. "You did it in front of everyone," I said. Lana made a toast. "You wanted me to be pressured. You wanted me to be shamed into paying." Mom's mouth trembled. "We were desperate," she said. "And so was I," I replied quietly. Well, I got those messages, Mum. I couldn't breathe. I thought my life was falling apart. And you knew. You let me feel that because it was easier than telling me the truth. Mum started crying again. Your father. Stop, I said firm. Stop putting it all on Dad. You were part of it. She stared at me like she didn't know what to do when her usual script didn't work. What do you want? She asked, voice thin. I thought about it. I thought about little me on the back step. I thought about years of swallowing. I thought about my name on accounts I didn't open. I want you to stop contacting me about money, I said. I want everything in writing. I want you to stop telling people stories about me. And if Dad or Jay tries to open anything in my name again, I will report it formally and I will not protect you from consequences. Mum's eyes widened, fear flashing. You wouldn't. I held her gaze. Try me, I said, and my voice didn't shake. She left after that, shoulders hunched, wiping her face like she was the one wounded. I shut the door and leaned my forehead against it, breathing hard, and for a second the guilt surged up so strong I almost opened it again and called her back. That old instinct to fix, to soothe, to make it okay. Then I remember my dad's smirk as Lana toasted my payment, and the guilt drained into something steadier, self-respect. Over the next few weeks, the family narrative tried to fight back. Lana posted vague quotes on Facebook about betrayal, and some people only care about themselves. Jay told relatives I was lying and trying to get out of helping. Dad stopped speaking to me entirely, which was both painful and strangely peaceful. A few cousins messaged privately to say they'd suspected something was off for a while. One aunt apologized, awkwardly, for believing I was bad with money. Grandma started coming to my place for dinner once a week, like she was quietly choosing a side without turning it into a war. And me? I handled my life like an adult who finally accepted she was the only one who would protect her. I followed through with the bank disputes. I documented everything. I locked down my accounts so hard you'd think I was hiding state secrets. I stopped responding to group chat guilt bombs. I let people be angry at me. I let them tell their version without trying to wrestle it back. Because I already knew the truth. And now so did everyone else. Here's what I didn't expect. The weird grief of it. I thought exposing them would feel like victory, like fireworks, like this big, satisfying mic drop moment. Instead, it felt like walking out of a burning house and realizing you still loved the people who lit the match. It felt like shaking hands while you make tea. It felt like crying in the shower because your body finally had space to release years of swallowed rage. It felt like staring at my phone sometimes, wanting to text Mum something normal. Did you see that show? And then remembering she used my name like it was nothing. But it also felt like something else. Like standing up straight for the first time after years hunched over. Like breathing fully. Like my name belonged to me again. So yeah, I exposed their lies during the family gathering. Not because I wanted to humiliate them. Not because I wanted to be in charge in some petty way. But because I was done being controlled by a story they invented to justify using me. I was done being the villain in their narrative while they played heroes with my life. They wanted me to pay quietly. They wanted me to shrink. They wanted me to carry their mess and smile while I did it. Instead, I walked into that room with receipts, spoke the truth out loud, and left with my grandma on my arm. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the family problem they could manage. I was the person holding the truth. That's what being in charge looks like, at least for me. Not power over them, power over myself.